as we do not have really a choice but to fight back and to continue the struggle. As if we keep our silence, then it will only embolden the present regime and its vicious elements to continue the attack against workers and basic sectors of society.
Welcome to Fight Back Radio, a production of fightbacknews.org, taking you to the heart of the people's struggle. I'm your host, Richard Berg, and we got a whopper of a show for you today. We have the chairman of the Kilusang Mayo Uno, which is stands for May 1st movement. It's in Tagalog. It's the Kilusang Mayo Uno, or KMU as we'll be calling it, which the chairman is of one of the largest trade union federations in the Philippines. And so it's a federation, so many unions are a part of it. He's been touring the United States, and we were fortunate enough to sit down with him for a little while here on Fight Back Radio to answer some questions about what's going on in the labor movement over there and here, the problems the United States government is causing for them, and how they're resisting it. It's and you'll see similarities, differences. This is a don't miss interview, I would say. So I'm glad you're here to listen to it. Before we dig into it, I do want to make a mention though, because of the what's going on in Palestine right now. As people know, the resistance, particularly Hamas, but others as well, launched an attack on the Israelis, which was, probably the most successful attack in some time from the resistance side. Obviously, the Israelis have been bombing the heck out of jailing and torturing and everything else to Palestinians for some time. Hundreds of Palestinians remain political prisoners in jail, young people, children even. There's torture continues, and now the United States is fully backing Israel in what promises to be a pretty vicious attack on Gaza, but on all Palestinians. And so it's important to stand with the Palestinians, is the international solidarity, and to stand against oppression wherever it exists. And so if there's a protest in your city or on your campus or whatever, join it, to support the Palestinians and, do whatever you can to support them, because this is one of those times when people really need it. I also I want to give Fight Back Radio here a little bit of a plug. We interviewed Nuria Shabiba back in March, and she predicted much of this, and it may have not sounded like possible at the time, but she talked about the unity of the resistance, and I think it's worth listening even to now. I mean, go back, I think it's March, it was International Women's Day episode, so it was right around March 8th, I think it was March 5th, so go back and listen to Nuri's episode. Also, before, I want to, with Chairman Kabong from the Philippines, I want to also say that we have a previous interview with Adrian Bonifacio, who gives like a pretty, speaking plainly, what's the story of the relationship with the Philippines and the United States, and it gives quite a bit of background and depth, as well as what's going on currently. And Kabong talks from a trade union perspective, from a working class, a worker perspective, largely, but I think the two together match up well. But you can listen to one without the other. But also, I want to say finally, before we get into it, for our YouTube friends, we're trying something new. A lot of our video has been me interviewing the other person. You see us talking, etc. But we're trying to. We got a bunch of photos and clips and stuff from Kabong's visit to the United States. He spoke at a UAW rally and spoke with different labor leaders. And so we're going to do like a slideshow kind of presentation during the interview. And so let us know, do you like this better, or you want to see more of this? Or, as we get better with our video, we can try different things out, but we want to hear from you. You can write it in the reviews, or you can send an email to us, richard.fightbackradio at gmail.com. So, but anyways, with all that, here is Elmer Bong Labog. Enjoy. So I'm here with Elmer Bong Labog, who's the chair of the Trade Union Center in the Philippines, the Kilusang Mayo Uno, or KMU. So welcome, Bong, to Fight Back Radio.
Thank you, Richard, and I'd like to express my greetings to your listeners and those who are watching our interview today. And a cold good morning to everybody.
It's much warmer weather in the Philippines. So, anyways, I want to let our Fight Back Radio listeners know. So first, Bong is an important labor leader in the Philippines and internationally, and we're so glad to have you on our show today. But for those that aren't familiar with the trade union movement in the Philippines, the KMU, or Kilusang Mayo Uno, is a trade union center. So it's similar to the AFL-CIO is in the United States. So unions will affiliate with it. And in the Philippines, there's three major centers, but the one, the most militant, the most fighting union of them is the KMU. Can you tell us a little bit about the KMU, maybe how they started and what distinguishes them a little bit?
Yeah, the KMU was formed in 1980, and true to its name, Kilusang Mayo Uno Labor Movement Center got its name from the historic struggle of our forefather workers at the Haymarket massacre in Chicago, right here. Yeah. So it is important for us that it started with the class struggle that has been conducted by our co-workers at that time, at point in time, where the struggle for an 8-hour labor law started, and the recognition of union rights was held in this historic Chicago struggle. And so this is very important for us, as it denotes that the strength of the unions would come from the rank and file, or the grassroots of the unions. And indeed, we always see to it that our members are part of the various activities of the unions in the Philippines. So we are a member of the International Trade Union Confederation, and we have 9 federations under the Trade Union Center, KMU, as well as 5 regional organizations and 2 mass organizations, which are not dues paying members, but are considered as part of the informal section, like the drivers of the jeepneys and the urban poor, where a lot of the contractual workers or subcontracted workers, as you call it in the U.S., are residing. So these are poor communities where rental of homes are much lower compared to those that are in the city center. So that's the KMU in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Richard.
So, and I remember maybe 5 years ago or something like that here in Chicago, every May 1st we have a rally and at the monument to the Haymarket Martyrs, and we put a plaque on the monument from an international federation to show solidarity. And I think it was about 5 years ago that the KMU's plaque got put on the monument to the Haymarket Martyrs in Chicago, and it was, May 1st in the May 1st movement. So that was kind of a nice thing. I was at a program last night where you spoke at Bong, and the professor, Kim Sipes, said, of the KMU, and he's written books about this and is a scholar who writes a lot about international trade unions. But he called the KMU the most dynamic trade union federation in the world. And some of this, I think, and he mentioned this too, is what you call genuine trade unionism. Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about the KMU's vision, how they relate to their members, and what genuine trade unionism actually is?
Well, I do not want to monopolize the trademark of being the lone dynamic trade union in the world, as we also are open and considering the vast experiences of other unions worldwide, and this is where we draw lessons from, like what you have mentioned about the Haymarket experience, and I'm happy that you had mentioned about the posting of the plaque. It's really an honor, and that I'm proud that the text that's mounted there was a recognition of the 8-hour struggle, and I did the text myself.
Oh my gosh!
So it's a really for me it's a significant event that our plaque in KMU was mounted in that historic monument of the Haymarket workers' struggle. So you're asking about the genuine trade unionism. It's a brand of trade union that we carry on during our education programs, where the principles of trade unionism, such as the power should come from the vast majority of the members, would come from. For example, we do not just leave the collective bargaining negotiations to our lawyers and a few leaders, but then we see to it that members are mobilized whenever we have these collective bargaining negotiations with the representatives of management, and that it should be transparent to the members. If they want to come and observe the ongoing process, then they should be part of it. So being genuine is to really involve the majority of the membership. That's why we call it a mass movement union, where the life of the union really presides on the general membership. So it is militant, as we do not just hold negotiations, but this is always coupled with mass mobilization of our members, no matter what the type of activity the union would have. So it would go beyond the narrow confines of the establishments, but then we associate with various trade unions that are not within the membership of the KMU. But then this is a way of consolidating the whole labor movement by creating coalitions with other groups that may have this different ideological inclinations or whatever color they may have. So that's right. I think important, and being patriotic means that we should indulge ourselves with the basic issues of Philippine society, such as the improvement of the economy and taking stand in various issues in the Philippines. So we go to the extent of taking strong positions on foreign relations of the country, as we believe that as unionists we are citizens of the country, and that we have the right to really air our grievances and take positions in the issues of the day in Philippine society. So it's a comprehensive manner of unionization, where the basic principles, for example, between the relations of management and the union should be clearly stated and really internalized by our members. So we do not really cater to the adage that we should not kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. In the first place, we don't have much to eat, so we will have to literally kill the goose. But then in labor relations, the primary objective of capital is to gain more profit, and on the other hand, the basic demands of workers would be contrary to their interests, like higher wages, better working conditions, such as the observation of occupational health and safety standards are deductions on profits of management, and therefore they wouldn't really like to have a union in their workplaces, no matter what the color of a union is. And so it's important really to galvanize unity amongst workers and to stand pat on the basic principles that the contradictions are really there to exist between capital and labor. And so we should give priority to the interests of labor and not a relationship where a sweetheart contract relations would exist. Yeah.
So let's dig into some of that a little bit. And I know that what you say is resonates. Because the power for any union, if they're to utilize it, is in their workers, in the members. Yeah. And it's not in having a smart lawyer or whatever. Although it's better to have a smart lawyer than not, I guess. But the real power is in the people.
Right.
And so I want to dig into there's three things that the KMU has talked about. Wages and contractization or subcontracting, as we call it here, and then union rights, or dealing with some of the repression. And I want to do it in the reverse order. I want to start out with some of the union rights stuff, because I think the other things will resonate with union people here in the United States. But one thing that's really different is the level of repression that you face in the Philippines, that the KMU faces. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think 70 workers, 72 trade unionists, so thanks for the correction, have been killed since 2016. And 7 have been, I think if I'm right, have been abducted. And can you talk a little bit about how that is, or how that what can you tell us the story a little bit behind that, and who's abducting these people, who's killing them, and what are the circumstances that have led to this, or why this is happening?
I'd like to inform you that only last September 29, another organizer of the Kilusang Mayo Uno labor center has been brutally murdered in his residence by elements of the Philippine National Police, where the purpose that they stated is to serve a search warrant against the person of Jude Tadeus Fernandez. But then instead of really just serving the search warrant, it led to the killing of Jude. And the usual narrative that the police would say is that he nanlaban is a common term in the Philippines, which means he fought back, and so they peppered him with bullets. This is no different from the killing of another organizer and mass leader of the unions in Cavite City, in southern Tagalog region, where that was the same reason the 15 police officers were serving a search warrant, but then it led to the brutal execution of Manny Asuncion, where when they weren't able to locate him in his house, they went to his office, and there they found Manny, his wife, and another staff. They immediately grabbed the staff and forcefully separated Mrs. Asuncion, who was in very tight embrace with his husband, and then they dragged them both downwards from the third floor to the ground floors. As soon as their bodies touched the ground, and it's the time they heard successive shots which caused the death of Manny. And this has caused so much trauma in the life of Mrs. Asuncion, because she had to undergo a week of psychological treatment, as she wasn't able to really speak for a week because of the severe shock of this experience. So these are common things that are happening, and that has led to the 72nd death or number of killed in the Philippines. This is coupled with continued kidnappings of the organizers and leaders of the trade union movement, as only recently two organizers of the health workers and teachers were abducted, and they were released because there was a guy who was vigilant to have taken pictures of videos of the actual kidnapping of Diane and Rayan. They're the two organizers, and at the time the fact-finding mission was about to arrive in Manila, and therefore these were the factors that caused for their immediate release. But then trump-up charges and especially red tagging are still the agenda of the present dispensation, meaning these attacks have been carried out from the Duterte regime and adopted hook, line, and sinker by Marcos Jr. That explains why the number of killings keeps rising, and red tagging is a common practice of headed by a task force to attack workers. That's the National Task Force to end the insurgency in the Philippines, headed by no other by Marcos Jr. So these are things that are still ongoing, and despite the call of the ILO high-level mission for the government to stop these attacks, I think they're not heeding this advice of the ILO in terms of the calling for the stopping of these attacks.
So yeah, but we'll dig into that in a minute, I think. But I mean that's sobering. I mean that those kinds of things are happening, and it's happened for some time now, since 2016. You mentioned the current president of the Philippines, Marcos, who's done nothing to stop this and encouraged it, as did his predecessor, Duterte. So those are names, as people hear them, those are the presidents of the Philippines. And these are the people, the 72 people are just union activists, like many of our Fight Back Radio listeners, who are out there fighting for whether it's a decent wage or a just society, or in different ways. Let me ask you, Kabong. I mean, you're the chairman of the KMU. Aren't you afraid of this kind of thing happening to you, or?
Well, I'm also scared. I'm just human. But then I think the constant integration and the relations with the grassroots makes us really more stable, courageous, as the courageous stance of our members gives inspiration for us to continue our work. We treat the situation as part of occupational hazard in order to, although it's a joke, we keep having this fervor to keep our work going on, as we do not have really a choice but to fight back and to continue the struggle. As if we keep quiet, if we keep our silence, then it will only embolden the present regime and its vicious elements to continue the attacks against the workers and the basic sectors of society. So it will also lead to to the silence of other sectors if the working class would stop its leading the mobilizations and protest and condemnations of this ongoing violence against the ranks of the trade unions and the basic sectors of society. So this, I think, one of the important guarantee to really be consistent and continued working and mobilizing is to make sure that you are always in touch with the basic sectors of society, mainly with the workers and other poor people in various communities in the Philippines.
No, that makes sense. I mean, as you know, to just repeat myself again, the power's in the people, and that's often right, your best protection. And you know, just to say, I'm I'm proud to be with such a courageous man who, you know, given all that's going on in the Philippines with repression of labor leaders, that you continue to speak out and stand up. You and your sisters, brothers, siblings in the KMU who stand up and fight. And it's impressive, and you're correct. It's needed, but it's nonetheless it takes courage, and I'm impressed with that. I want to talk a little bit about a tactic you used also, though. You mentioned earlier the ILO, which is the International Labor Organization. It's a part of the United Nations, and it was established, I think, in 1945. And it's not some radical organization. In fact, we've been critical of them over the years for not doing more, or being so conservative and just setting, you're underpaid because of this or that. But your organization, the KMU, has reached out to them and used them. And I want to ask you about the high-level tripartite mission. Tripartite indicates three, so yes. I guess there was three. Maybe union centers that were involved or whatever it was. But could you talk a little bit about what the high-level tripartite mission was, what you had hoped to accomplish by that, and where that's standing right now?
Yeah, the ILO high-level tripartite mission was already our clamor since 2016. And indeed, in one of the conferences in 2019, they had reiterated the necessity of coming to the Philippines to really investigate what's ongoing. It was still under Duterte then, and the advent of the pandemic caused another reason for them not to come. But then, with the insistence of the United Labor Front in the Philippines, they finally came in January 2023. So this is just this year to hear the reports and complaints of the United Labor Force in the Philippines. I think one of the important undertakings that we had after the mission is the formation of the broadest ever coalition of all various unions in the Philippines. As I earlier stated, regardless of political inclination and color that they bear, we're able to come together to fight for the three main issues, like the freedom of association, against subcontracting, and of course, primarily for wage hike. And this has galvanized this broad unity. I think if you'd ask me what's the most important impact of the mission, I think it's the creation of this broad unity of the labor movement. But then you will take note that it's a tripartite mission, and that it is composed of the representatives of the labor sector, government, and the employers in the international level. As you have mentioned, it's a body under the United Nations. But the common position, and this is seldom, of the three representatives underscores the validity of our complaints with the ILO, like they had admitted the report of the number of people or organizers and leaders of the trade union movement in the Philippines having been killed, kidnapped, jailed due to trump-up charges, and worse, the use of the red tagging method, which is the modern version of McCarthyism, where if you're red tagged, then you're a candidate for being arrested, surveilled, and worse, being killed, and be added up to the mounting statistics of organizers and leaders of the trade union movement who've been victims of murder and.
So red tagging is I think this is what we used to call red baiting, or we still do actually, where people are accused of being communists or terrorists or whatever, and in a very public way, and then it sets them up to minimally lose their job, but at a maximum lose their life or their freedom.
I think it's essentially the same. Red tagging and which you call red baiting. In the North America are the same things which are filed against the critics of government, both in the trade union movement and other sector who are merely calling on the faults of government. And it's not an exclusive thing with the trade unions, but it also victimizes other sectors. Like only lately, another young lady lawyer has been gunned down in the northern Luzon province, where she was about to attend a court hearing, and in broad daylight there were two assassins, which we call riding in tandem on motorcycles, and they pumped several bullets on her body, so that caused her immediate death. She's a wife of a judge with high position in the province, but then they're not excluded in this attack. So it encompasses various sectors of society, including the church, the professionals, media people. No one is exempt. Although the biggest number of victims would fall on the basic sectors, primarily the farmers and the workers, who are the most represented in terms of the population in the Philippines.
So, who are the perpetrators of this violence? Is this the military or the government or paramilitary groups, or how does this?
During the martial law days of Marcos Sr., a lot of paramilitary forces were in various places in the Philippines. But now it's the government institutions of the military and police that are involved in these attacks and killings, as proven only lately when, again, they kidnapped two young lady organizers, and they made stories by vilifying them and saying that they were members of the New People's Army. And when they presented the two young organizers of the environment protection, they told the true stories that they were indeed kidnapped by the elements of the Philippine National Police and military, and that they were forcefully taken and pushed inside of a van and kept them for several days until they had a chance to really tell the public that they were kidnapped, and they were forced to sign a statement admitting that they were indeed members of the New People's Army, as they were in a camp and they didn't have any chance to really tell their parents and friends what really happened to them. And it was an opportunity to really state what the true story was. And it was a good thing that the Commission on Human Rights took them in custody. And eventually, I think they're with their families now. So experiences like this of the two girls, although it's really very dangerous, are inspiring, inspiring stories where even at the face of death, they stood their ground and really told what happened, the true kidnappings that happened to the two ladies.
Wow. I mean, well, these are harrowing stories.
Yeah.
But I want to pivot a little bit here, and because you're a union, and as your members and the working class in general looks to you to increase their wages, and we've talked about subcontracting a little bit. I want to pivot to those issues a little bit, and let's start with the subcontracting or contractual. I forgot you used a different word, but that's something that we've seen here too. So I mean, multinational corporations, I think, have done this. But can you talk a little bit about how this looks in the Philippines and why it's a problem?
It's a widespread problem as the number of subcontracted workers continue to increase. As of course, they would gain more profits and save in cost when they employ subcontracted employees, or what we call contractual workers, as the wages and benefits of a contractual worker is much lower than their regular worker counterparts, wherein they do the same tasks and do the same jobs in the workplaces. So it's really an unjust situation, and that we are strongly fighting for the regularization of the subcontracted workers. And so this is one of the major struggle, as these were the things that were promised by both Duterte and Marcos in their during the campaign. But then after they've been elected into office, nothing really happened.
They lied to you.
They were blatant lies, and
yes,
it was one way of gathering the votes of the working class. And true to his color, before Duterte ended his term, instead of passing a bill to junk contractualization, although it was a watered down version, it was passed by both the two houses of Congress. But then when it reached the desk of President Duterte, he vetoed the bill, and therefore it had to be refiled again at the present Congress. So Marcos had the same promise, but then after his, just like Duterte, after his being in place, then he never went back to his promise. And in fact, there are no definitive programs under Marcos Jr. when it comes to the interests of labor, such in terms of wages, the regularization or the security of tenure of workers, both in government and private corporations. So essentially, the government is one of the promoters of the contractual relations or mode of work in the Philippines, as it maintains a big number of its contractual workers in different government offices where their wages are much lower. So the contractualization has come to be because it's one way, according to the development paradigm of the government, to attract foreign investments in the country. So there were two combinations of laws that had been passed in 1989 to enhance the implementation of a direct investment program, like the regionalization of wages and the contractual mode of employment. So these are guarantees that wages would be low because of non-regular work, the non-regular workers coupled with the policy of freezing of wages. If ever they increase wages, it's always token in a sense that it's not really that substantial to give the workers purchasing power to be able to buy the food and the basic commodities in their homes. So that is the reason why we are fighting together with all the unions to come up with the implementation of a national minimum wage against the existing regionalized mode of wage rates all over the country. So this has been.
So is that done legislatively? Are you trying to get the whatever the Congress to pass a law that has a national minimum wage, or
yes,
create a board, or how does that?
The progressive members of of Congress under the Makabayan bloc has always been consistent in helping us to effect changes in our sector, and indeed they refiled bills, one that would come to the increase of the wage levels and to effect a national minimum wage for all workers, and the criminalization of employers who violate the law on regularization of workers, and especially the non-implementation and observation of the occupational safety and health standards in the Philippines, which is widely violated by the companies, employers, including big multinational corporations. We see in our researches that they also, in one way or another, violate the occupational safety and health standards, as this is one way to save costs and to perk up their profits. So these are the major issues that the friends in Congress help us to go through, especially that one that is led by the progressive Makabayan bloc in Congress.
Yeah, let me ask you a little bit about that, because like here in the United States, I think we certainly unions are involved in lobbying and in politics, but I think most of the gains that we've made have been when we've made them have been through collective bargaining agreements, by negotiating a contract with a specific employer that might have a clause in there against subcontracting or wage, increasing the wage. But it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that in the Philippines you've been much more active legislatively than we have here. And you mentioned the Makabayan bloc, which you ran for
yes.
the Senate as well, and there was actually, I think there was some hope in this last round of elections that possibly many that you would win the presidency. Even unfortunately, that didn't happen. But can you talk a little bit about your experiences with working with legislatures and trying to pass laws, and you continue to do that, and as a tactic, and how that plays out, and your thoughts on that.
We've had some successes in joint work with those who are in Congress, like the passage of a law recognizing the increase on the leaves of those who'd be having their babies. A maternity leave had been increased from, I think, a month to 105 days, and this is something very substantial for our women workers in various workplaces, and it's an important achievement. And also there are resolutions passed in Congress where one of the big sugar centrals has been closed in the southern part of the Philippines, and a fund and assistance from Congress has been laid out for the support of those who lost their jobs in this sugar central, and at the same time, the resolution entails the reopening of that sugar central, so that those who had been those workers who lost their jobs would be able to go back again and work in that sugar central. So even if there were only 3 who were voted into office, I think they have the capacity to really work hard and file these progressive bills that would help not only the workers but various poor sectors of Philippine society, like a help at the time of the pandemic was also a resolution, and I think this has been acted upon by building their own alliances within the Congress, where even if the representatives were not progressive, they could be work with in terms of issue to issue basis. And I think this is an important work by our progressive representatives in Congress, and they consistently consult with us on what the important elements of the bills would entail. So I think it's a very healthy and important ongoing relations to be updated also on the bills that are being pushed in Congress that would benefit us workers and the basic sectors of society in general. So it's an important part of our struggle that the work in Parliament would also be considered. So we say in and out of Parliament, in the Parliament of the streets, we all work together.
That's a good way to look at it, I think. I want to pivot a little bit here to there was a big rally yesterday in March for the United Auto Workers who are on strike against Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler or Stellantis here in the United States, and that the big Ford plant in Chicago, Sean Fain, who's the president of the United Auto Workers, came, and you were invited to be on the stage with Sarah Nelson from the Flight Attendants Union, the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, who's a progressive that just supported the president of my union, Stacey Davis Gates, was there. And, you've been touring the United States and talking to different labor leaders. Can you talk a little bit about what your message has been to American workers and to American labor leaders, and what they've told you, and what your impressions are of the American labor movement?
Yes, I'm thankful to the UAW for having recognized our contribution, our modest effort to really help them in go through this struggle as we expose what's happening here in the U.S. Not only to make this struggle known in the Philippines, but throughout the world. Our enemies operate on a global context, and therefore the workers of the world should also do this unity on a global scale. And so I think we're duty bound to promote the interests of the striking workers of the UAW, and I think it's one of the important event that took place during my tour here and talks with various labor organizations, as it had underscored the continuing working relationship with various unions here in the U.S. And it was indeed an honor to be upstage with various militant and progressive leaders in the U.S., as well as a progressive mayor of Chicago. I think this seldom happens where a politician in a high position would be obviously on the side of labor, and politicians may be many politicians may be supportive of labor, but then it's just a token thing. But then you will see the seriousness and sincerity of these leaders in really affecting the victories of workers in their struggles. And it was a great opportunity to be linking arms with other progressive union leaders here, especially with the presence of Sinn Féin and other union leaders, which you have already mentioned. I think this ongoing struggle in the U.S. Would push for the change of the landscape in the labor movement, especially if there would be a strong mobilization of the workforce in the grassroots. And I think this is now happening at this present era, as so many unions in the rank and file are really willing to form their own unions or organizations, and that nowhere in time that the public opinion has been very favorable towards the unions in the U.S., especially when things are really getting bad, as the crisis engulfs not just workers in a third world country like the Philippines, but even those who are in an advanced capitalist countries like the U.S. Are also victims of this intensifying global crisis of poverty and the lesser capacity of our wages to purchase basic needs in society. So I think under the able leadership of the militant and progressive leaders of the labor movement in the U.S., it will really make a change in the landscape against the culture of bureaucratic trade unionism that is still dominant in many sectors of the trade unions in the U.S. So this is a significant development in the U.S. At the current time, and I think what is really needed is a joint solidarity struggles, wherein those unions that could relate with us in the Philippines are important linkages to be sustained now and in the future. I am happy that a lot of those I have talked with in various states in the U.S. are really inclined to be part of the march and trend towards genuine and progressive trade unionism activities now in the U.S. And this developments also inspires us in the Philippines, especially with the strong position taken by various trade unions here, denouncing the ongoing attacks and repression in the ranks of workers in the Philippines. I'd like to make mention that for example, the AFL-CIO came up with a statement strongly condemning the latest killing in the Philippines in the person of Jude Fernandez, and this promptness has given signals to other trade unions around the globe to come up with their positions to denounce this recent killing and to call on the government to take immediate action and to punish the culprits in this latest bloody murder of Jude Fernandez, who's an organizer of the KMU.
Yeah, no, I mean, solidarity is so important. It goes back to this idea of the power being in the workers, but it's across borders. It's everything, and so the fact that you're meeting and speaking on the same stage with prominent American trade unionists is very important in my mind, and I think you mentioned we probably should have given it a little more time, but even things, with wages. The minimum wage in the Philippines is so low. I mean, they play us against each other. It's we can, we can make this in the Philippines for cheaper, so we'll close the factory here, or we're going to move, shut this down, and so instead of us working together, and then even the tragedies, like you mentioned with Jude Fernandez, these are things that we have to stand together on, I think, because this is these are our people. These are the ones that, are fighting for us. Can you talk a little bit about it's in the United States Congress, there's a bill called the Philippine Human Rights Act. It's sponsored by Susan Wild from Pennsylvania and Jan Schakowsky from Illinois. Actually, we're in Jan Schakowsky's district right now, as we're recording here. But could you talk a little bit about that and what we hope to accomplish with that?
Yeah, it's important to really involve ourselves in the passage of this Philippine Human Rights Act, as one of the important elements is to look on the funding of the U.S. Congress on the things that are being undertaken by the Marcos government, especially its counter-insurgency program, where funds from U.S. taxpayers are being used to train, for example, the military and police. But then the guns of these government institutions are pointed towards the workers and other basic sectors, instead of really serving as to desist foreign invasion. And this is really a harrowing experience for us, because as you will see, the record of people being killed and vilified and eventually arrested out of trump-up charges are an ever increasing thing. And I'd like to thank the important participation of the unions and the politicians who would help and included their signature for the passage of this Philippine Human Rights Act. And it also shows the dangers that are now occurring in the Philippines. And so an urgent action on these matters are very important, as it would help us go over this very tragic situation that we are already experiencing in the Philippines. And within this background is the imposition of, as you mentioned earlier, lower wage levels to attract more locators. These are the investors in the export processing zones in the Philippines. We're not against foreign investments per se, but then if it redounds to the attacks on workers' rights, such as low wages and the patronage of contractual or subcontracted workers, then we're duty bound to really denounce this situation. And the existence of many Filipinos in the U.S. who are paid lower wage levels compared to the Philippines is being looked out as a situation where foreign workers would grab the wages or the jobs of their U.S. counterparts. And I think this should be explained to our co-workers in the U.S. as a forced situation for us, where many of the Filipino workers are constrained to go abroad as there are no available jobs, and low wages abound in the country. So this comes into a situation where when we fight for higher wages and against subcontracting and to really call for the respect of the freedom of association, then we are violently attacked by the elements of governments like the counter-insurgency body led by Marcos, the National Task Force, against these critics of government. So the funding from the U.S. helps to make the situation graver, and that immediate action, such as the passage of the PARA bill, is an important undertaking at the present time. So we are soliciting the support of all the important members of Congress of U.S. to come to the rescue as the dire situation in the Philippines is intensifying, and that no clear program of the President Marcos government is in place to really address the very serious crisis that is prevailing in the country now. So that's one of our important calls.
Yeah, and it's important for our Fight Back Radio listeners, those of you that are members of unions, if you can introduce resolutions or talk to your leaders about making statements in support of the Philippine Human Rights Act and denouncing the killings exactly that have been going on in the Philippines amongst trade unionists. And I think this is an important thing and not just unions, I would say any church groups or any community organizations of any kind, card clubs. No, I'm just joking there, but whatever. But whatever it is, yes, I mean, we want you to do that and to stand up. Unfortunately, our time is going very quickly here, and so we're almost out. But I want to give you the opportunity if there's anything else that you want to add, or if you want to, promote anything, or give us, how to reach you. We can put it in the show notes.
Yes, thank you very much, Richard, and to our Fight Back listeners and the watchers. I wish to reiterate our call for the trade union organizations to come up with strong resolutions and statements to denounce the ongoing attacks on the trade union movement, characterized by the increasing red tagging, kidnapping, and the filing of trump-up charges against organizers and mass workers leaders in the Philippines. Second is to help call for the immediate release of trade union political detainees. There are about more than 300 trade union political detainees still in jail since the Duterte government, or even beyond that, including the Gloria Macapagal administration. And one of the sad news now lately is the dropping of the charges against General Palparan, who's in jail for kidnapping and killings of two young lady activists in the youth and student sector. But then he was ordered to be released, of course, because of the case was dropped. And this would again add to the black situation occurring in the Philippines, as General Palparan has been known to be called the butcher because of the many cases that had been filed against him, especially the killings. And I think this should lead us to more important union resolutions, immediate resolutions, to call on the Marcos government to stop this bloody attacks against workers in the Philippines, and to join the APEC summit, which will be mainly happening in the U.S. on November 11 to 12, where again, the aspects of neoliberal impositions would be taken or discussed by the 21 representatives of 21 member countries who are members of the Asia-Pacific Economic Conference, where such liberal policies will be again intensified, and of course we as workers will be the number one victims, as wages would be more depressed, the liberalized policy would be more imposed in our countries, especially against the developing countries or poor countries of the world. Entered the privatization of institutions that should, in the first place, serve the interests of workers and poor people in our respective countries would be affected. So, as workers, I think we have the duty and obligation to lead the protests and the condemnation of the ongoing vicious attacks in our ranks, and even the agenda on the environment would surely be affected with the more neoliberal impositions in our ranks. So this calls for more unity and solidarity, as unity and solidarity would always keep us together and ensure our ability to go beyond these restrictions and hindrances in our lives, and to fight for a better world and society that is in the first place made by us workers. Without workers, the wheels of production will never roll, and thus it will be a stagnant economy where without the hands and the toil of workers, nothing will really progress. So we are the makers of history. We are the builders of the economy, and therefore power should be in the hands of the working class. Thank you very much, Richard, and thank you to your listeners and watchers of Fight Back Radio. Long live international solidarity.
Long live international solidarity. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. That was, the chairman of the KMU. And I encourage people to, we'll put some of this in the show notes, but to check out the People's Conference that's going to happen in San Francisco at the same time as the APEC summit. It'll be the 11th and 12th. And it's the People's Summit, so we'll put that on there as well. And I want to remind people also, just before we head off, this what's going on in Palestine and in Gaza right now, especially, is they need your support. So if you see a protest around one of those things, certainly join it. And then go back and listen to Adrian Bonifacio's, if you haven't already, episode on the Philippines. I think you'll enjoy that as well. But so give us a review, 5 stars. This helps the algorithm and helps people find us. So all those things we really appreciate. And then finally, before I sign off, I just want to, as I always do, I want to give our production team a high five or a shout out. Shane Tremley, Vince Olson, Natalie Pranis, and Dodd McColgan. So I'm Richard Berg for the entire Fight Back Radio team, saying until next time, all power to the people.